All right. Yes, Nabila, thanks so much for allowing me to come on. I want to start with a brief intro. And Nabila and I have been able to work together in the past. So this is a very fun interview for me to be able to reconnect with you. My name's Alyssa Bailey. I am now a professional career coach where I get to help professionals really find what makes them happy. And those that are kind of in roles that they're not so passionate about anymore, get unstuck and find what that next career move looks like for them. And so I get to work with amazing clients each and every day to paint that ideal career blueprint and get them into that next career move.
That's awesome, Alyssa. Thank you. Thank you. Knowing you, this is such a fitting journey for you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for investing the time for our Q&A. So these questions were submitted by our students. They're grouped in a few categories. So career exploration and planning, some interview skills and confidence, professionalism and workplace, and just handling rejection,
Yeah.
especially when you're applying for that dream job or opportunity. So let's start with career exploration and planning. Um, where should they start to figure out their career journey altogether?
Yeah, that can be such an overwhelming place to start. And, I've talked to a few colleges and students, and this is always a question that comes up of where do I even begin? Even with mid-career professionals that I work with, we even have to take it back to this again when we start and really defining what are their values? What are their interests? Like, where are some of their skill sets at? And really, we dig into what energizes them. I think sometimes we let our head lead instead of our heart lead, and then our head figure out logically how to get there later. And so, really taking the time to understand like what energizes you, what fulfills you, and then seeking feedback from mentors. Get another perspective on like, where do you see my strengths? Where do you see me really thriving? And once you start to build that clarity of like what excites you, then go research industries that really feed into that energy zone and that skill set and have conversations and get to know more about it. And, really getting that experience firsthand, like that in and of itself is so important. And just dabbling in it once you think like, okay, I think this might be it, then go get some experience and go have more conversations and take it from there. Like you're never going to have it 100% figured out. Like you just got to go get it and go try it. And if it doesn't work, then you can pivot. But without that experience, you're never going to truly know just by taking somebody's word for it. So once you have that feeling in your gut of like, this feels very aligned to my values, then go look for opportunities to either volunteer, get a role, and just start to get your feet into that area.
Yeah. No, that sounds excellent. So, based off that question, we have another one of a student that has been in retail management for 15 plus years and really wants to know, okay, so is this it? Where do I go from here and how? So just kind of a little bit more of, as you mentioned, mid to career individuals.
Yeah, the days of staying in the same career your entire career, I like to say they're gone. You don't see as many of individuals doing that anymore, and you're seeing more of these career pivots than ever before. And no, this isn't it. It doesn't have to be it. And so I want you to think about what are those transferable skills that you can lean into that you learned in that retail management time. I mean, you probably have some leadership skills in there that you can tap into. Customer service. I'm sure you've had to solve some problems and start exploring roles that really build on some of those strengths, some of those transferable skills that you can then speak to that core. It's not that you're losing that experience when you pivot, it's how am I using what I've already gained and transferring that into that next industry, that next role. And really think about those industries, like I said from the first question, like what are you passionate about? And then like start to build that story on how those skills can transfer over.
Yeah, for sure. I think both of us have been there.
Oh my gosh. I pivoted so many times. Like, if you looked at my career, you'd be like, what in the world? Do you have a passion? Like, yes, I wanted to try everything out.
Exactly, same. All right. So, okay, is starting your own business a reasonable journey to take as a stay-at-home future mother? I'm continuing my bachelor's and trying to gauge if it is worth it.
Yeah. I mean, starting a business can definitely, speaking from experience, can give you some flexible ways to really balance that family life. But it really does require careful planning. I tell people don't come up with a 5-year plan, come up with like a 2-year plan. This world is changing so incredibly fast. We can't possibly envision where we're going to be in 5 years. And so I like to take it a little bit shorter term of like, what in 2 years do you want to be doing? Are you going to be a stay-at-home mom at that point? Um, you know, the world's changing so fast, and I work with some professionals today who they didn't finish that bachelor's or they didn't go do that and now they regret not doing that. They're trying to get into an industry or a role that requires that. And so I'm always an advocate for education and learning and growing. And so I would always say, like, go finish that bachelor's. You're never going to regret that. On the flip side, you may regret not finishing it if life changes and you decide to go in a different direction, that you never would have expected. And so, really just setting some of those realistic expectations too, back to starting your business. You can get sucked in so deep into all the things that a
Mhm.
business entails. And so, making sure that you're building a solid foundation, setting those boundaries, like what does that look like for you and what you need in your stage of life, and just being ready for the challenges that entrepreneurship brings, because there's going to be some unexpected curves and turns that you're going to have to navigate. And so, just really having that plan, you don't have to have 100% solid, but understanding what that foundation should look like for you.
Yep. Amazing. Yep. All for that, having the options,
Yeah,
right? For
that's
sure.
right.
How would you recommend getting started with leaning into and building a network and doing informational interviews as you're exploring career options?
Yeah, great question. LinkedIn has become such a powerful platform, from a professional standpoint. And I would always, and like, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile or account, definitely get one. This is growing so rapidly. There's over 1 billion people on LinkedIn. And what they say, like 4 out of the 5 decision makers are always on LinkedIn. And so, building your network and starting there, is very important just from an expansive network opportunity. I always recommend like your community networking events as well. I know there's so many opportunities out there, and so looking for what those are in your area and then starting to build those local networks as well. And start with things close to you, right? So the people you know and your alumni network, even, start to connect with them. And then when reaching out for informational interviews, reach out from a place of curiosity, not transactional. And what I
Mhm.
mean by that is you're not reaching out to them asking them for an informational interview because you want something, right? You're not saying, hey, I'm looking for a job. Can you get me a job? No. You're reaching out out of a place of curiosity, of like seeking to understand. I want to understand your industry. How did you get into your career? What was your career journey like? And really just coming from a place of wanting to learn and explore more. And then building that genuine, authentic relationship that's always going to be a place where you're more comfortable with and it seems less icky, like
Hmm.
transactional, like awkward. That's where people start to get really hung up when it starts to go into that realm. And so when you really are seeking just to build a genuine connection, that is so much more powerful in the long term. And you slowly growing your network over that time, that person's going to remember you way better. So when it does come time, someday your paths may cross again, and there may be an opportunity where they know the contact and they're way more willing to reach out on your behalf then. And so just really coming out of a place of curiosity and authenticity.
Yeah, love that. Yes. It's a long-term
It
strategy.
really is.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and networking too is it's something people, oh man, some people are really good at it and some people are like, this is my worst nightmare. Like it's so far outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And what I find is there's sometimes people didn't nurture that network. And then when they get to the point where like their back's against the wall, they really need that network. They now don't have it. And so they're starting at square one. And so that's why networking, I always say, is something you never really stop doing. You always continue to build that network because you just never know when you're going to need to use it.
Yes, for sure. Love that. All right. So now getting into professionalism and workplace. So every student has different backgrounds and different paths to where they are in their career journey. And some perhaps have not quite stepped into that professional career that they're
Okay.
pursuing in their studies at the moment. So this question has been very interesting of not feeling comfortable answering questions professionally in an interview or just in general, even when you're networking, because you haven't had that exposure or experience yet.
Sure. Yeah, it's a good question. Sometimes it does come up where it is a question maybe that crosses a line that you're not comfortable with. I don't see it as much, but if that does happen and it's a question you're genuinely uncomfortable, really just keep it professional and politely show those boundaries. You could say something like, I'm not sure that question's relevant to this discussion necessarily, but I'm happy to talk more about my experience and skills that relate to this role. Keeping it professional, smiling, and not showing that you're offended in any way.
Right. Yep. Mm. All right. And so as a woman, and as she continues to build her professional wardrobe, what are some of the basics for interviews and work that she should start to collect?
Yeah, really just keeping it simple, professional, whether you have a tailored blazer, a blouse top, a well-fitting pants or skirt, not too much skin, and really just keeping any accessories pretty professional and simple, nothing over the top. You don't want like these bright, shiny earrings and necklaces, but really just coming in professional, put together, and making sure all your clothing is well fitting and clean, and just starting to, and it could be a basic pair of like black dress pants with a blouse, with a simple necklace or something. It doesn't have to be anything crazy or a suit necessarily. And then as far as shoes go, I'd always say closed toe is always the best. Don't walk in with sandals or flip-flops and just keep some type of slip-on slide or something professional there that goes with your outfit.
Yeah, love that. Just the classics, for
Yes.
sure. And what are some of the common life skills potential employers look for?
Yes. Those soft skills like communication and problem solving, adaptability, those types of things, and being a team player. I said earlier how I don't like to necessarily come up with a 5-year plan. I like to come up with a 2-year plan because
Hmm.
things change so much. And I think even more so nowadays than they did even 10, 15 years ago. and showing your ability to adapt and be flexible when things change or a challenge is thrown at you. A lot of leaders or employers are looking for that skill set.
Mhm.
And one of the buzzwords that's really coming up in a lot of interviews, a lot of job descriptions I'm seeing now is that growth mindset. And so not only being adaptable and flexible to the situation and maybe what's being thrown at your team, but are you always willing to continue to learn and grow? And one thing I think is really important to remember is we don't always know everything. We aren't expected to. And so be willing to continue to learn and hear others' opinions and perspectives as you work together as a team and really continuing to have that strong growth mindset, no matter how far into your career that you are.
Yeah. No, great advice. Love that. So as we get into just now preparing for the job or the role at hand, interview skills and confidence. So one of the aims that we've been working through this course is just building that professional presence and really connecting that to your passion and authenticity, as you mentioned, Alyssa, earlier.
Mhm.
So for several, it's probably their first formal interview or perhaps their first personal high stakes interview.
Right.
So, question is that how do you remain confident in an interview like that?
Yeah, great question. And depending on your personality, this may be a skill that is learned a little bit more over time than someone who is totally comfortable. They're your bubbly person in the room. But really, confidence comes from a place of preparation and understanding who you're talking to, right? So you're not just coming in to an interview prepared just to ask or answer questions. You should have already done your research on the company. You kind of understand what they're looking for in this role. And if you have questions, come prepared with those questions. You've gone onto the company website. You are looking at things like their mission, their story, their about page, what are their values, and getting a rounded picture of the type of company that you're talking to and that you're interviewing with. That just builds that familiarity so that you understand how to help connect the dots for them of what they're looking for, what your expertise is. And the more you can connect those dots and understand that story, the more confident you're going to show up. So you've already done the work of understanding, okay, here's my experience. And if you don't have any, like really go in on the skills that you have, like that growth mindset I was talking about. And there's got to be some type of story in your life or experience where you can lean into that and show as an example of where you really put your growth mindset out there and that you were flexible and like think through those top, I like to call them your story stash, your top 3 to 5 stories that bring those skill sets out in a way that is storytelling, connecting the dots for them. And the more you are being true to that and your story and your values, the more confident and comfortable you'll be in the interview because you're being yourself.
Mhm.
When we try to step outside of who we really are, and what we stand for, that's when we start to feel off. We don't feel comfortable, and then things kind of just go south. Um, one of the things I always tell my clients before they walk into an interview is do not forget it's a two-way street. You are also interviewing them just as much as they are interviewing you. And so one, always, always, always have a question, at least one, if not more, to ask them, because you have to make sure that it fits you and what you're looking for just as much as they have to understand if you're the right candidate for their role. And so just that alone and understanding like this is a two-way conversation that helps calm some of those nerves in so many people too.
Oh, yes. Uh, so many good tips as well. And it doesn't feel easier no matter how many times you've done
Yeah.
it.
There's always going to be a little bit, but you know what? When you come
Right.
in and even when you're doing informational interviews too, like I always say, hey, go check out their LinkedIn profile. See if you have something in common. If you can find like a personal ground of, hey, I saw this, like I also am interested in that, or I also was there or volunteer here, like trying to find and draw out that common ground, that just breaks the ice so much more. And then both of you start to feel way more comfortable as you continue the conversation.
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference. All right, so we have a multi-part question from the student.
Okay.
As someone studying interdisciplinary studies and planning to become a physician assistant, what are some strategies I can use to build genuine confidence during interviews, especially when competing with candidates from more traditional academic backgrounds? And how can I also start building a strong professional network now that I will support my journey toward a career in healthcare?
Okay, so what I heard in that question was maybe they haven't had that traditional background that so many of professionals in this area have. And so what I really would focus on is your unique edge. How is your unique background giving you a different perspective that you could bring to the table? And don't look at it or talk about it as a weakness or something outside of the norm, but really show why that makes you such a strong candidate. Your interdisciplinary studies, they've probably helped you develop a diverse skill set. And so leaning into that and showing and demonstrating how those skills can help you in that physician assistant role, I think that becomes your edge, to be honest, when you go into these conversations. And when you start to network or interview, just highlight how that varied experience can really complement those traditional paths and just start reaching out to people in this field. And it can be a 15-minute conversation. Hey, I would really love to pick your brain. I'm looking to go into this area, into a role similar of yours. I'd love to understand more what you like about this, what you have struggled with, what you learned in your career path, and just starting to have some of those conversations with people who've already walked that journey, who've already been in the shoes that you one day want to be in, and just start leaning in, like I said before, with curiosity on lessons learned that you can learn before doing from other people's journeys. And so, really, just networking again, finding those people to have those conversations with, that's going to build your knowledge and prep you so much faster than just figuring it out on the fly.
Yeah, I love that. Um, what is one way to be prepared for any question that you may not expect to get during an interview?
Yes, we can prepare all we want. And I always give, interview prep docs to anybody I'm prepping for an interview, but there's always going to be that one question. And honestly, just staying calm.
Mhm.
So many times there are many people who have a anxiety when it comes to a pause or a break in the conversation and they feel like they have to fill it and just start talking and rambling. But that is when you will lose them. And so stay calm, take a moment to really collect your thoughts before responding. And if you're unsure of the answer, it's okay to say something like, that's a really interesting question. Let me think about that for a moment. And then start to collect your thoughts, draw some type of parallel back to it. But when we start to just ramble and spit out things that we think they want to hear, we've already lost them. And so
Mm.
your power is going to be in the pause and collecting your thoughts before you start to respond.
Yes. How do I, as an introvert, portray the confidence I know I have?
As an introvert, you are probably a very, very good listener. And so being thoughtful in your responses, lean into those qualities, lean into that benefit of being an introvert. Um, confidence doesn't always mean that you're going to be the one that comes in and naturally just starts talking and being loud, but showing up with an energy that's genuine to you and you're still smiling, you're not like sitting back and like not smiling and you're just uncomfortable, right? Like you still want to be engaged and show them that you are enjoying that conversation and demonstrating that. Um, I think that when you know your stories, like I said, that story stash and you know who you are authentically, just staying true to that
Mhm.
helps you show up with confidence, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, right? Always bringing back to your core truth, your values, your stories, your experiences, and keeping it all within that's going to help you stay confident and comfortable because you're not trying to go too far outside of who you actually are.
Yes. And I believe a great reminder in any conversations as well, especially the
Yes,
ones we feel are not so prepared for. All right.
absolutely.
Now, on the other side of interviews, of handling a rejection. So, how do I deal with constant job rejections, even if I try to improve with each rejection?
Yes, that is a hard one. And it can be such a mental blow when you're receiving rejection after rejection. And, you know, what's important is to control your mindset, reframe each rejection as an opportunity. And if you're not asking for feedback,
Mm-hmm.
ask for feedback. You're not always going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take offense if they end up ghosting you or they end up not replying to your response with why they turned you down or why they went with another candidate. But always ask. I would really love to understand, any feedback that they have on me and why they went in a different direction. That'll really help me as I continue my job search and see what they say and then like lean into that with an open mindset to understand how you can show up better the next time. Each no is going to bring you closer to your yes. And so think about it in a mindset shift of trying to keep it as positive as possible. I am
Mm-hmm.
one step closer to my yes. And it's coming. It's just not this one. And I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And maybe there is a blessing behind some of these no's where maybe it wasn't the culture you thought it was, or maybe it wasn't where you were supposed to be right now, but maybe it can be in the future. And so just trying to keep your mind in the right spot, keep looking forward. And when you do have small wins, celebrate them. So if
Mm-hmm.
they do provide feedback or they give you, valuable feedback, but they're like, oh, you're such a great candidate, but we ended up going with an internal candidate instead. See the win in that and understand, like, okay, people are seeing value in what I can bring to the table. It's
Mm-hmm.
just not here. And then celebrating those wins and keep focusing on like what's next.
Yeah. No, love that. Just the mindset of this is just yet another conversation that leads me to my right conversation. Oh, that's
Yes, and it will happen. It'll eventually happen. Just stay patient with the process. The
yes.
job search is and can be very grueling sometimes. And so if you can control up here, you're going to be showing up to these interviews with so much more energy versus feeling drained. And like that's what will get it done.
Yes. Well, that brings to um the end of the all the questions that were submitted. As we just reflect, Alyssa, any final thoughts or reflections that you have based on some of the questions we just covered, or just in general advice for these students?
Yeah, I mean, these are such great questions, and you always have value to give, and always lean in with curiosity. And it's okay if you don't have it figured out 100%. None of us do, right? And so just giving yourself that benefit of the doubt and don't wait for something to feel 100% right or I'm 100% a fit for this. if you're not 100% fit, that doesn't mean you shouldn't apply to a role. And so, like I said, always come back to what value do I bring to the table? Connect the dots for your hiring managers and the people you're interviewing with to make their job easier, where they walk away so clear on what you would bring to the table that they're not questioning anything. And one last tip I would love to give as you end an interview, one thing I always have my clients ask is, was there anything I didn't cover or any hesitation in your mind of why I wouldn't be a great fit for this that I could speak to? What that does is pulls out any hesitation they're not saying, but they're feeling. And so
Mm.
it's giving you one more opportunity to address that gap or that silent no before it actually becomes a no. And what this has done is it's created opportunities for you to address a concern before they get off the phone and go make their final decision. And so that has saved a lot of second or third round interviews before where they would have just made an assumption and said no. And so always lean in, always have those questions, and then like look for those opportunities to really connect those dots for those that are hiring you.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. This is so helpful. A great reminder for even us professionals that perhaps have been doing this for what
Right.
feels for a long time. And even as hiring managers, I think this is just great advice, just remembering that you have an individual that holds great potential sitting across from us in these conversations. And how can we do our part of making them comfortable so they can show up as their best selves as well?
Absolutely. Yes. Couldn't have said it better.
Thank you, Alyssa. Wishing you a great week. Thanks again for the investment of time and wisdom.
Yes, absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.